Hey, Soul Warriors, this is Jessica Noel, and I'm coming at you with episode 7 of my podcast, Uncovering Your Authentic Soulful Self. And today we're going to be talking about sexuality on the spiritual path and sexual energetics. So this is going to be more of a half episode. I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about this. I just have a few things to share about it. And maybe we'll do a fuller episode sometime in the future. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is the foundation? So as you're on the spiritual path, you're moving forward with, personal growth, transformation. And so you're thinking about your sexuality and what that means for relationships or your sexuality in general. I want to talk to you about what your foundation needs to be. Your foundation in exploring this part of yourself and exploring relationships, it needs to be integrity. Integrity meaning honesty, authenticity, transparency. And you need to be communicating that with people that you're interacting with sexually and or that you're dating, right? There has to be integrity, there has to be honesty and transparency. That's your foundation. If you don't have that, if you're not being honest, if you're not moving forward with integrity, then that's going to cause you a lot of problems. There's going to be some karmic repercussions. You're going to experience some things you don't really want to experience. You're going to harm others. It's not going to be a pleasant experience for you in the long run. You have to approach it with integrity. Really, that should be our foundation for life, right? Honesty, transparency, integrity. And if you think about who you want to let into your life, there's a discernment about who you allow in your life. It's not so much a caution that you don't want to have like heart walls and fear. It's more about resonance and discernment. There are a lot of people in life, right, that don't have a super high level of integrity. Maybe they have unconscious patterns they're running, and some of those have to do with dishonesty. So you can have compassion for that. Okay, they have a dishonesty pattern. Maybe there's other wounding patterns that have to do with, not holding a high level of integrity, or the words don't align with actions, whatever that looks like. Those people are not going to be wise for you to have in your inner circle, right? So you need to observe for a little while, but not through too much caution, like we talked about in the last episode, because that becomes fear. It's more through discernment. So having a high level of integrity and requiring a high level of integrity of who you interact with is going to be important as well. So your integrity, honesty, again, honesty, transparency. And then you want to do direct communication, and you want to be making sure that you're being authentic with who you are. And keep in mind that we're all designed differently. So yes, we all have like different wounding patterns and different unconscious behaviors that we're unraveling, that we're working with. But we also all have different natural designs. We have different, different parts of our nature. You don't want to go against your own nature. So what is your nature? That might be the first question. You want to get to know yourself in this regard. I have a friend that I've known for a long time, and she's always done polyamory. And I have a lot of clients that I work with, and polyamory is pretty common. She does it in a very integrity, a way that's full of integrity. I have clients that they do it in a very honest, forthcoming way, and they're very clear about what they're doing and what that looks like to potential new partners. So that's fine. That's in their nature. That feels good to them. It's the right path for them. So back to my friend, that's what she's always done. So for me, I'm very much the opposite, right? And that does not come from a wounded place. I've worked through a lot of wounds and patterns, and there's always more. There's always more that you can uncover and work with. So it's not about perfection, but it's about understanding, discerning. Is this coming from a wounded place, or is this your nature? So what I've uncovered is my nature is very much the opposite of hers, right? So it's monogamy. It's you've got to have some sort of, I've got to have some sort of emotional connection before I can move in that direction. For her belief, her value, her nature is sex is supposed to be enjoyed. You should do it a lot. You should do it with a lot of people. It should be light. It should be fun. It should be all these things. And so, it's not about like a possessiveness for her. It's not about like, I've got to have this. This is mine. And for some people, though, that prefer monogamy, doesn't have to be about, sometimes it is a possessiveness. You're trying to like grab onto something, and this is all mine, and I don't want to share it with anybody. So she's very much like on the opposite end of the spectrum. But if you're not coming from a wounded perspective, but you're preferring monogamy because it's part of your nature, then that's going to be a lot more about that's just what you're resonating with. You're not trying to grab onto something and control it or possess it or claim it as only yours. It's just like, in order for you to share a certain depth with this person, there has to be some level of connection. Maybe there has to already be commitment. That just depends on you. But at least some level of connection for a lot of people that have that part of their nature. So as you work through, wounds and, different behavior patterns that might have been ingrained in you, you'll start to really discover what your actual nature is. Is it more of a polyamory? Is it more of a monogamy, where there has to be some sort of connection? Is it more of a monogamy, but there doesn't have to be a connection? Just, or is it like lots and lots of people? So you have to discern what is your nature, and then you need to follow that. That's how to do this in an authentic way. Sometimes that's trial and error. Sometimes in order for you to know what your nature is, you got to go exploring a little bit, right? So for some people, dating sites are the right thing, and you can learn a lot about yourself through dating sites. So if you decide you want to explore things and you want to start meeting a lot of people, approach it, if you can, through the lens of, I'm going to learn about myself through, interacting with these people, and maybe even through sexual experiences with these people. That's fine too. So use it as a tool to evolve and learn about yourself and deal with it, with whatever comes up for you, right? So it's another tool for growth and evolution. But for some people, it's not about the dating site. Don't feel like you need to do that, okay? I talked in the last episode about a four-leaf clover. You're just going to be guided to that four-leaf clover. In other words, the person that's right for you, and the perfect person for you, and then you pluck it and that's yours, right? So you're gonna walk up to it. Oh, there's the four-leaf clover. The universe will guide you to it. So you don't have to do all this sifting and sorting if you're looking for one mate and you're not really in a place where you want to learn more about yourself. If you've already done that, the universe will guide you to it. You don't have to do all that. But if you do want to do it for fun or to learn about yourself, then go for it. And just look at it through that framework and make sure you're moving forward with honesty and transparency. So you can see there's like different ends of the spectrums, and then there's an in-between. So I want to talk about the energetics of sexuality. So we've already talked now about understanding what your nature is, discerning what your nature is, and honoring that. So that's going to be about like sifting through wounds and patterns and, eliminating some of that. And then really uncovering like who you are, what feels right to you, what aligns with you in this regard with dating and sexuality. That's what you have to move into. And we, like I said, we could always talk more about the details of that in another episode. And then now I want to talk though more specifically about sexual energetics. So when you have sex with somebody, you are creating an energetic connection. So there's an energetic cord. There's also a chemical connection that's happening. There's literally changes in the brain. You're exchanging chemicals. You're getting flooded with chemicals. Interestingly, men and women get flooded with different types of chemicals. And in case you're interested in that, men get flooded with a chemical, it's dopamine. I think it's dopamine maybe. And I think women's is oxytocin. Don't quote me on that. But basically the one that men get flooded with is the one that wants more. But it's not the one that wants to connect with that person. It's not necessarily more from that person. And I'm not saying men are going to pursue that. I'm just saying the chemical is more sending that message more. And then with women, the chemical is a connection, an oxytocin type of chemical of love. And I want this emotional type of connection. And so that may be more present in some men and less present in others, more present in some women, less present in others. Maybe there's other factors that are sort of eliminating that. And maybe their mind is set in a certain way where it kind of eliminates the effects of the chemicals, but that is a difference in chemical reactions. So when you're with a new partner, there's an energetic cord that gets connected between you and them. And there's also chemical releases and chemical exchanges that are happening, and those have powerful effects. So you just need to be aware of that. So that doesn't mean that you need to handle it differently per se, like make a different choice. It just means be aware of that. You're now connecting with somebody energetically. Now, not only are you, in the last episode, we talked about exchanging information through the energy fields, but you're exchanging information that's much more in depth than just when you're present with someone and exchanging information. This is much more in depth. You're getting all kinds of energy things from their field, from their chakras, all kinds of things. And this can be really good if it's the right resonance, the right match, and it can be really not good if it's not the right match, if the person's unhealthy, if they have a lot of things in their energy field and in their energy body that need to be cleared away. It can really become an issue, or it could be a really a big benefit. So just being aware of that. So discern wisely who you're going to share that with. And maybe you're going to share it with multiple people, and you could still discern wisely and share it with multiple people. Also understand that when you're sharing that with somebody, you're also sharing it with everybody that they're with. So if you're like trying to be monogamous, but they're not trying to be monogamous, then you're sharing this energy connection with everybody that they're also sharing it with. So you might be getting bombarded with all of that. So some of us that are really, really sensitive, that could be really challenging, right? To get all of this information, because we might be perceiving a lot of what that is. And that could be overwhelming to get all of that information. So one thing that you can do is in my authentic relationship group, somebody said, "Oh, this is like an energetic prophylactic." And I said, "Yes, indeed it is." So that was a really good term that he coined. It's just an affirmation. The only energy exchanged will be for the greatest good for both of us. So say that before you have sex. And so you don't have to say it out loud. That would be kind of weird, right? But just say it to yourself. The only energy that's allowed to be exchanged is for the greatest good for me and for the greatest good for them. So that way, other things like their illnesses or their, negative energies, there's going to be less of that exchange. Maybe it can even eliminate it altogether. Okay. The other thing you can do is clean up afterwards energetically. So you might clean up in both ways. So what you're going to do is you're going to like cut your cords, right? So, okay, I got cords here. Just visualize them. I got cords here from this exchange, and I'm going to cut those and remove those and dispose of them onto the earth or into the fire that you create, visualize. Violet is good. So you're removing those cords from you. So you're sort of cleaning up afterwards. Salt baths are great too. Salt baths can purify you. They can be a nice way of cleaning up your energy field. Just take one of those big Morton salt containers, pour the whole darn thing in there and take a salt bath. That can also help when you're having a certain type of awakening like Kundalini and other types of energies. So message me if you want info on that. But salt baths are good purifiers. Okay, so you could do that too. And it's really about your intention when you're cleaning up energetically, that you're removing, that energy from you so that you can be back to just having your own energy present, and you're not absorbing somebody else's. Okay, so the next piece that I want to talk about is, what does this look like when you're on this spiritual path, you're raising your vibration, you're raising your frequency? Does that mean that sex becomes like really like, rigid and buttoned down, and we can't do all these things? We can't, we gotta just do this one type of, position and all that type of thing? Absolutely not. What happens as you're on the spiritual path, you're moving towards perhaps even enlightenment. You have raised your frequency, your vibration. What it does is actually enhance your sexuality, enhances sexually, and it intensifies things. So it will intensify things. It's not going to take away, from the fun, the enjoyment, the playfulness. And, keep in mind too, there's like different frequencies you can move into. God, the divine, the universe, it's one, and it encompasses all of this stuff, right? So you can really move forward with sexuality and express all these different aspects. It can get really real passionate. It can get really emotionally, connected, very intimate in that way. It can be very slow, very beautiful, and there can be a whole energetic component that you want to do with that. It can be very primal and, very intense in that way. It can be all of these things. So it really just expands that. What it has to be, though, is honest and authentic. All of those things can be honest and authentic. You just have to make sure that you're moving forward with integrity, and that you're also not doing anything that's harming someone else or that anyone's uncomfortable with, right? So it needs to feel right. There needs to be a resonance that's feeling right. Everybody's agreeing with everything. There's full consent about all the different details of it. So it's really very much about integrity, but keep in mind that as you move forward on your spiritual path, it does not dim anything. It expands everything, and it enhances all of the experiences sexually that you can have. It adds dimension to it. Literally, it can literally add dimension to it. So it can add like you can have all these energetic, like spiritual experiences even. You can have different types of orgasms. You can have energetic orgasms. There are all kinds of things that are available once you start to raise your frequency and vibration that you can start to explore. And yeah, we can do a whole episode on that another time. But for now, if you're wanting to connect in more of a spiritual way with your partner or someone that you're having a sexual relationship with, see if you can start to do something where you're touching them with a different energy. So this is not so much about like the primal and all these different other aspects that you can have fun with and explore. This is more about if you're wanting to move into this deep, connected, sort of soulful type of tantric experience, then I want you to just start with two tools. One of them is, so many of us are touching each other in an empty way. Empty touching is like without any kind of emotion or feeling. So see if you can start to touch your partner. I just mean in like any kind of touches. Yeah, it can be sexual touches, but I'm more talking about like, let's say you're hugging them or you're stroking their back or their arm. See if you can touch them with love. Can you touch them with the energy of love? And maybe even say in your mind, I love you. Just say it silently. I love you. You're beautiful. Say some beautiful things as you're touching them. Do this to yourself too. This is amazing to do yourself. It literally changes things energetically if you do this for yourself, but it does it for your partner too. So do that. And very light touches. See how I'm like barely touching my skin? As you do really light touches, as you guys explore physical intimacy in a new way, do really light touches. These really light touches with this different type of energy of love and of just wanting them to have a new experience, it really can start to bring an energetic experience to them. So really play with that. Very light touches. You know, maybe you explore some senses, some sensory deprivation even. Maybe you've got it like blindfold on. Maybe there's other things that you add in with the senses. Maybe you have like something that's metal that you do that with rather than your hand, you know, because that is a different sensation. So just play with this, you know, really there's no limit to all the different things that you can start to explore. But just keep in mind that go with your own nature, discern what that is, keep yourself in integrity, be honest, communicate, explore, understanding that this expands everything. In no way does it constrict everything or make things dull or unfun. It's way more fun, and it can be a real beautiful thing. Choose your partners wisely. Understand that there's an energetic connection that you're forging with them and everyone that they're with. And use your energetic prophylactic of the only energy exchange will be for the greatest good for both of us at this time. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is if you are the type, like what I've described myself to be, which is like more of the monogamous type that needs to have more of a connection with somebody, and also not really into the exploring, you know, of the, maybe you've already done that, maybe you already know who you are in that regard. So if you're not going to do the exploring, you know, on dating sites or dating a whole bunch of people, you know, something that might happen is celibacy. Celibacy might be your friend, because if you're going to wait for somebody to show up, for that 4-leaf clover to show up, then, you know, it might be about celibacy, but there's a lot that can be learned from celibacy. So you can explore things with yourself while you're celibate. You can just be celibate in general, and you can utilize that sexual energy in different ways. And there's a lot of value in that too. So don't be afraid to be in a place where celibacy is something that you're experiencing for a length of time, if that is in your nature and if that's something that might add value to you. If having sex with people that you don't have a spiritual, or I mean a emotional kind of connection with, or it's somebody that's more of a stranger, you're not resonating, if that's something that's going against your nature, you just can't do that. So you're going to have to wait for that 4-leaf clover, and probably celibacy will be something that will be helpful for you. But again, there's a lot of value to that. It eliminates a lot of distractions. You can utilize the energy in a different way. So it can be really helpful. So I want to say one more thing, which is, don't start to randomly do things where you're like trying to exchange energy with chakras and, you know, with the chakra system and meridians. You're doing all this like stuff that you don't really know about. That can be dangerous, because you might be taking all this stuff that they have stuck in there and pulling it into you, and that can make you really sick. You know, I know some stories of people that got really, really sick from that. So that's something that will happen only if you're opening up to it and you're trying for that. But what I'm saying is, don't do that if you don't understand a lot about the energetics. Don't try to like connect the two of these energy centers and do all of that type of thing. Just start with what I talked about before, with the gentle touches. Say your energetic prophylactic. Do all of that stuff. And then if you want to explore some like more in-depth types of energetic things sexually, then you need to schedule an appointment with somebody that has details about that. You know, I might be able to do another episode about that at some point. There are experts too that have a lot of expertise in that area. What I'm giving you are just the basics, because that's what I know about. So keep all these things in mind as you move forward. Have lots of fun. And that is all. That wraps up episode 7 today on sexuality and the energetics of it on the spiritual path. And I have so enjoyed connecting with you today, and I will so look forward to the next time. Bye for now.